I've been doing annual reviews, at least privately, for about 10 years now, and I've published 6 or 7 of those publicly on my website. They're just a really good time to look back and reflect on the year, and 2020 was a heck of a year, honestly. Just so much was happening last year that it upended a lot of people's businesses and lives, and it definitely did that for us as well, but I'm thankful that I did have a very positive business year last year, and so I'll get into more of the details of, like, the financials and the numbers behind the growth of my businesses and stuff like that, last year, but you kinda come to a year feeling energized. You wanna dive into the next year around January 1st. 2020 was such a year that I just needed some downtime. I didn't really take time off in 2020 up until Christmas, other than a trip I took right before the pandemic hit, and then like a 4-day trip to an Airbnb a couple hours away from us. So come Christmas time, I wanted to actually have some downtime. And so during my daughter's naps, I played PlayStation. And in the evenings, I didn't work. And it was just nice to not work for a week or so. And that's normally when I do my annual reviews, is between Christmas and New Year's. I didn't do that. So it's the first week of March, and I finally finished writing my annual review, going through everything, and I'm, recording this version of it as well. So that's why this one's a little late, but it ended up being like one of the biggest years for me, 2020. And 2019 was a huge year. SwitchPod launched on Kickstarter early that year, January, February, and March, and that completely changed what I spent my time on work wise. Honestly, I still traveled throughout 2019 to do a lot of client projects, which is something I did not do in 2020. We'll get to that later. But it definitely took a lot of my time to work on SwitchBot, to launch the Kickstarter campaign, to get it manufactured, to get it marketed, to be selling it and shipping it all around the world by the end of 2019. So that kind of set up 2020 to be a good year financially, because by the end of 2019, SwitchPod was shipping all around the world, and we were starting to see profits from it, not just reinvesting all of our money into SwitchPod. So I didn't really do an annual review publicly at all last year at the end of 2019, partially because we had a 2-month-old and I was just trying to use any extra time I had to catch up on sleep. But also, there was just so much going on with SwitchPod, and I didn't really make time to do a full annual review. So as we get into 2020, and it being the year that it was, of upending our life and everyone's lives, um, I had normal plans going into 2020 to continue to travel to do the client video projects that I normally do. And that didn't happen. It basically turned into a lockdown. We stayed home from March through December. I didn't travel at all like I normally do. So a big portion of what I typically do for work got completely shut off. Um, Thankfully, I do have a local client, Pat Flynn of Smart Passive Income, who's also my business partner on SwitchPod. And I did do a lot of video work with him and had my team do a lot of stuff with him that year. So, we took the pandemic really seriously, though, because my wife's had cancer surgeries multiple times in the past, and her parents are nearby, and they're over 70, and we need to keep them safe during all of this, them being in a high risk group. So we basically stayed home for 10 months. And I think a lot of people did as well. We didn't go to restaurants to eat. We didn't travel. We didn't fly. We didn't do much other than pick up food to go and go on walks. So, so that was 2020 personally, but professionally, it was a very focused year. I spent a lot of time on SwitchPod. I spent a lot of time on doing stuff for my clients. I spent a lot of time on some digital projects as well. So we'll dive into all of those throughout this review. And there's this quote from Lord of the Rings that just is going to show me being a nerd, but I think it cues up my philosophy behind how 2020 went well for us. And so let me just read it and then I can talk more about it. So Frodo says, "I wish it need not have happened in my time." And Gandalf replies, "So do I, and so do all who live to see such times, but that is not for them to decide. All we have to decide is what we do with the time that is given to us." So basically, what I mean with that is like, there were a lot of major world events in 2020, like the pandemic, like everything going on with the election, like with racial injustice and so much more. But it definitely was a harder year to stay focused on work during all that. There were times when I couldn't turn off the news. I would watch the press briefings about COVID when everything was going on and see what was going on with protests and curious about the election. And so there were definitely those days. But as much as possible, I tried to just completely turn that off during the day to help me mentally, but also to make it so I could focus on my work. And I'd be wrong to say that 2020 wasn't a hard year for us, but not like it was for other people. We haven't lost anyone to COVID-19 that we know, like in our friends and family group. We didn't get it ever, um, but it did impact our lives. It did impact our businesses, and so it was just an odd year. But I think that as we look at this year, it reminds me of 2008 because back in 2008, I just graduated college in May and I was working at the Boeing company as a financial analyst. And within a few months, there was a big economic downturn and recession. And within that first 6 to 9 months of me working at Boeing, they announced that they were going to lay off 7,500 to 10,000 people. And that was something that just like flipped a switch in my brain of like, okay, maybe a company isn't going to take care of me forever. And I should learn how to take care of myself. I should learn how to look out for myself financially and not just put the trust into another company. And, I worked hard in college to set myself up to have a job when I graduated. So luckily I did get a job when I graduated and I was able to hold on to it during that time frame. But in those next like 3.5 years that I worked at Boeing, I was constantly thinking, how can I like protect myself against getting laid off in the future? And that's how I stumbled into entrepreneurship. That's how I stumbled into getting my MBA right away in the 2 years after my undergrad. Um, and overall, it just made me trust in myself more than a large company that I could just work at for 30 or 40 years and get a pension from. It made me just start to think more independently about how can I watch out for myself. And so because I took that risk and I left my day job with solid pay and those cushy benefits in 2011 to go work for one other person, to go work for Corbett Barr at Think Traffic at the time, which eventually became Fizzle, that was a risk that I wouldn't have thought I would have taken when I was in college because I thought, oh, I'll just go work for a company. I'll just go work for a company, stay there for my whole career. They'll pay me good benefits. It'll be, you know, it'll be cush. It'll be easy. Um, but because I took the risk, I was able to build up skills. I was able to build up talents. I was able to build up connections and multiple income streams. And eventually I could survive and thrive through the pandemic in 2020. So if you've been hit hard during, 2020 and during this pandemic timeframe because your job relies on an industry that had to shut down, or your school got shut down and your projects got shut down, or you're an athlete and you can play, or whatever it was that impacted you last year and into this year, if you felt out of control, try to use that as a bit of a wake up call to take back control of your own life and prioritize how you can control what's going to happen the next time something like this happens. Because, economies are cyclical, things like this are unpredictable and tend to happen. And it's just good to have a lot of things going, a lot of projects up in the air, a lot of things moving, connections you can fall back on. Yeah. So that's my little preamble before I dive into reviewing the year. Just 2020 reminded me a lot of 2008. And if you were young enough to just be in school during that time, you wouldn't have remembered that. If you're older, you will have remembered 2008 and what that may have done for you or your career or your friends or your family. So, maybe it's every 10 years, maybe it's more often, maybe it's less often. You just got to be ready for these types of things to happen by, building up your career capital and saving money to weather stuff like this. So what do I do for work? I get this question a lot. Sometimes even my parents are like, so what do you do? How do you make money? I really run three different kinds of businesses. One is a physical product business, which is SwitchPod, which is a camera tripod that I helped invent. And we have a couple accessories along with that. But those are physical products that we get manufactured, we store them in a warehouse, and we ship them around the world to our customers and to retailers. The second business I run is a client services business. It's video production mainly. So we go and film and edit videos for people. Over the past 6+ years, that's what I've been doing full time. SwitchPod is a more recent thing. And a lot of the things that we end up doing end up being online courses, multi camera like interview shoots, sometimes events, sometimes documentary style stuff, a lot of what people would call corporate type videos, but I don't really do them for huge companies. I usually do them for startups and software companies and independent entrepreneurs and online personalities and stuff like that. A lot of authors recently doing online courses as well. So that's my second business. And then my third business, technically it's the same LLC as my client business, but the third type of way I make money is through my digital business. And this is mainly through teaching or educating. And I have online courses. So I have courses on video editing with Premiere Pro and Final Cut Pro 10. I have a course on how to film yourself, just like I'm filming myself right now. Other courses about lighting and audio, and more to come this year as well. But I make money through those courses, but also through putting videos out on YouTube and doing podcasts and things like that. I make advertising revenue directly from YouTube or from a company that sponsors one of my videos. And I also make affiliate income. So if I recommend a piece of gear or equipment or a piece of software or something like that, I'll link to it below the video. I'll link to it from my website, from within my courses, and I make money that way too. So I'll put maybe a timestamp here in the video version of where you could jump ahead to see how much money I make. But I really think all of this that I'm talking through right now is an important lead up to the actual number, which is why I'm not starting with the number of, oh, look at how much money my businesses were paid this year and that sort of thing. I'm not starting with that. I'm going to talk through like how that actually happens because I think it can be a little too sexy to just talk about how much money you make on the internet without any sort of preamble about like, well, here are all the caveats and here's how hard I've worked and here's how many years I've been doing this and that sort of thing. So we're going to get to that eventually. So those are the three businesses that I have. Let's start with SwitchPod and what actually happened with SwitchPod in 2020. Is definitely the biggest change, like I said, to my work lately. I probably spend somewhere between 50 and 60% of my working hours on SwitchPod most weeks. Now, there are slower weeks sometimes when maybe there's no retailer orders coming in, there's not much customer support, or we're not doing anything new or like working on a new product or the website redesign or something like that. But there have been weeks and seasons where 80 to 100% of my time is spent on SwitchPod. Things like launching the Kickstarter campaign took a lot of my time and effort. Some of the projects for 2020 that we had were we redid all of our product photography to a different style. You know, when we initially launched SwitchPod, I shot it on white backgrounds and, you know, wanted the product to just stand for itself and be super clean. But we decided to do some new product photography for 2020 and have it be a little bit moodier, have darker backgrounds, you know, using dark walnut woods to complement the product and, you know, just different style to stand out a little bit from other types of products that are out there. So that was a big project for last year. We launched two additional products in 2020, our ball head and our phone adapter. And so those had a lot of work involved with them of, you know, taking product photos for those, getting them, you know, posted onto our website, getting retailers interested in them, sending them out to retailers as samples and getting them to buy orders and figuring out how to bundle stuff on our Shopify website. All that kind of stuff is what I spent my time working on. And the third big project for SwitchPod last year was completely redesigning the Shopify website. And so we purchased a theme and I mapped out all the pages I wanted it to be. My wife helped me figure out some like the photography and the text and just get some blog posts on there to tell our story for people that wanted to dive a little deeper, make sure we have our FAQs and, you know, outline where you could buy SwitchPod, other places in the world, and, you know, all the different kind of pages that should be on a shopping type website. But as well as all of that, we wanted to make it as mobile friendly as possible because I was seeing a lot of traffic come from mobile, specifically from things like Instagram and YouTube. So wanted to make sure that it was really mobile friendly, Picked a theme that loaded fast in the background, quickly go through images. We put in some GIFs and some videos and that sort of thing. So, other than those big projects, I spend my time with SwitchPod kind of reaching out to more retailers to get them to stock SwitchPod. So that was hard to do in 2020 because a lot of retailers' physical doors closed and their income went down. And so convincing them to bring on new product was tough. But we started to make some headway with some retailers and continuing to work on that into 2021. I'm also working through, fulfilling orders to Amazon and other retailers when they do place those orders. So making sure that they get invoiced and they pay on time and we get shipments out to them and the tracking numbers so they know when they're coming and all of that sort of logistical stuff. Working through marketing through social media and through videos and stuff on my own channel or through SwitchPod's channels, partnering with creators and companies on promotion. So if there's a specific creator that I'm a fan of or Pat's a fan of, we want to get them SwitchPod, facilitating that. And then obviously a lot of time spent on working on the less exciting administration parts of running a business like finance, taxes, legal, patents, trademarks, all that kind of stuff, as well as the day-to-day handling of customer support. So inbound requests, customers that need to change their address, want to return or whatever like that. It really isn't the type of business where I can let it go for more than a day or two without at least checking in on it, because systems start to fall apart. You have customers, you have retailers that will get upset if you're not replying timely to the request. So it's pretty much something that Monday through Friday, I'm at least checking in on, doing a little bit of work on. I can't really just like leave it sitting for too long. I kind of think of it more like a garden where if you just let a garden sit there, it gets weeds and, the plants will die or they'll burn in the sun if you're not shading them or things like that. And you kind of have to check in every day to make sure everything's okay. Some days you might just be pulling weeds or watering some things, but other days you might have to like completely till the soil and plant a bunch of seeds, which might take all day. And that's kind of like working on the website or doing the product photography. So I'm really proud of where that business is at. It's about, you know, just under 2 years since we launched or did our Kickstarter campaign or finished our Kickstarter campaign. Could we be selling more units? Always. There's always more people that could buy SwitchPod. But the business is very lean. We don't have a big staff. It's very profitable and has a lot of potential to grow. And I'll share more numbers about that later. Now I want to talk about my client services business a little bit. So doing video production for people, that's my bread and butter. That's what I've been doing since I started my business full time about 6 years ago. And in 2018 and 2019, my main client, Smart Passive Income, run by Pat Flynn, like I talked about, who's my business partner on SwitchPod, it accounted for about 50% of the income for my service-based business. And the other half came from me flying around the US or sometimes other countries, filming courses and events for startups and authors and things like that, like I talked about. But in 2020, Pat and Smart Passive Income made up almost all of my client revenue. I wasn't able to travel and I wasn't willing to travel due to COVID-19, and work inquiries slowed down, events were canceled, stuff like that. So we did have some like residual editing projects that we did for some past clients that had some needs, or projects that just kind of went into 2020. But mostly we worked with Pat. And the time of becoming a father a few months before the pandemic meant I was also able to just be home with my daughter and with my wife more than I would have been in any year prior. So, I was probably on the road for work somewhere between 45 and 60 nights a year over the past 2 to 3 years before 2020. And having that drop down to 0 nights, that's a big change, not being on planes, not racking up frequent flyer miles or hotel points or whatever, not being in other cities, not being away from home, is different. It was helpful to have more of a routine and to stay home every day. But you also get that like Groundhog's Day cabin fever feeling too. So, adjusting to the new reality of not traveling for work was actually kind of nice. And I think I could be okay not having to travel for work in the future, unless I really want to. And I'm grateful that because, client income did go down because of not being able to travel and because of inquiries, drying up a little bit. I'm grateful that SwitchPod's timing it offset that basically. So client stuff slowed down, SwitchPod picked up and could kind of pick up the difference financially for me. So the timing of that was actually very nice, and it did, offset the decrease in client stuff. So this is really just the power of diversifying your income. It's, it's powerful to have different ways that you can make money, either through clients, through products, through coaching, through teaching, through courses, through advertising, through affiliate income, like having all these different ways, it spreads out your risk so that you don't have to rely solely on one type of income. And if my client income had completely gone away last year, I could have put more and more energy into SwitchPod, or more and more energy into YouTube and courses and the podcast and that sort of thing. So just having things going together that does help, spread that risk out a bit. So project-wise for Smart Passive Income, we filmed and edited 2 full courses, both A to Z webinars and Email Marketing Magic. Both of those were created and launched in 2020. We helped film a bunch of live workshops, and these were kind of like calls with live questions, but we recorded them in high quality, and they sold them as well. I think there was like 8 or 9 of them. We helped out with Pat's YouTube channel, which he went heavy on live streaming. He's about to finish up 365 days in a row of doing a 1-hour YouTube live stream, which is insane. But also last year, he published 58 videos that weren't live streams, and we helped film or mostly edit those as well internally as a team. Tim worked on those a lot as my editor. So having a client on retainer, a steady retainer month to month, knowing what you're going to get paid, knowing that you're going to continually do work for them, it can be a lifeline to a client business that is more prone to ups and downs than normal. And even having just one client on retainer, like I've had for the last few years, it can be the difference between having money to pay yourself or your team each month, or missing in a month, or having to move some money around. So I highly suggest you try to get a client on retainer if you do client services. Pitch them with what you can offer, have something unique. Think about how you doing stuff ongoing for them can be really helpful, and it can make a big difference. Next, let's talk about business 3, my digital business. So I started working in 2020 with big plans for the digital business. I always have big plans. I'm always someone that likes to plan things out and likes goals and spreadsheets and stuff like that. So I initially thought, okay, I'm going to do 1 video a week, 1 podcast a week, and I'm going to launch 1 course a month. Well, none of those things happened. So let's break down like the things that I created and what I learned in 2020 from my digital side of the business. So first was my podcast. Content wise, I was actually most consistent with my podcast in the first half of 2020. I released, looking at my notes here, I released 25 episodes, and I started the year filming all of those episodes, even doing 3 or 4 camera shoots for in-person podcast interviews here where I'm sitting right now. And then the pandemic hit, everything locked down, people weren't traveling, couldn't have people over. No one was coming to San Diego. And so I stopped doing those in-person interviews. But of the podcasts I did do, about 11 of those I also did on video. So, I experimented a bit with my podcast to try to make it fun. But for how much I enjoy having these long form conversations with my friends and guests on the podcast, the results just really aren't there for me for the amount of effort that I put into them. I have to schedule the interviews or the conversations, plan the questions, set up the equipment, edit it, get it all scheduled, get it published. All that can take anywhere from 5 to 10 hours or more of me or Tim or whoever's time to get them out there. And when they're getting 1,000 downloads or less in the audio versions and 1,000 views or less with the video versions, is it worth it to me? Business wise, no. Creatively, probably. I do enjoy that very much. So there might be a way where I can figure out how to make that work. If I had a sponsor, even if it was a couple $100 an episode, I would find a way to get an episode out each month or each week because I would feel guilty that I, owed one to the sponsor. I don't feel that way about my audience. I don't feel like I owe you an episode, and so I don't put them out sometimes. And if you look at how the podcast performed on YouTube specifically versus my other videos, you can see a big difference. So I'm looking at my notes. Just look at these 16 podcast interviews on my channel and how they performed 100 times worse than 19 product reviews that weren't even camera related. So not even the camera videos that get a lot of views. These are non-cameras product reviews. Those reviews made 100 times more money and got 100 times more views in the stats of what I what I'm looking at here for these videos. So, I would maybe do a podcast audio only or maybe with a video component if someone else hosted it with me, like if I had a guest host and they were going to take on the scheduling, like the work and stuff like that. But maybe if I was getting more downloads, I would be more energized to record more podcasts, to have more conversations with people. And I've considered doing the podcast live on YouTube to see if getting guests and listeners on live would help it grow more, or get them to bring their audience into my brand and that sort of thing. But I think what's really hurt my podcast is a lack of consistency. So not having episodes continually coming out, taking long extended breaks when I don't publish stuff. Uh, that would make me stop listening to a podcast probably, unless I really was curious about the person and the people they brought on. But also, my show doesn't have a really specific niche like others do. It's just like whatever Caleb wants to talk about or whoever he wants to have on as a guest. And I think that hurts growth too. I have a general topic of like video production, video creating, entrepreneurship, things like that. But right now, I think having a podcast is just something that I just have to say, I can't put out stuff consistently for it right now with the kind of scope that I would want to. But it's there for fun. When I want to have fun, I'll release an episode. If you're listening to this, stay subscribed. I'll be putting episodes out occasionally, but they're not going to be consistent. They might be done as live streams. They might be just me. They might be a random person that I want to have a conversation with. And hope you're okay with that. Next up is my YouTube channel. And we're about to pass 50,000 subscribers over it's like 7 years. So it's been like a very slow and steady growth. And I'll get into more of the numbers later of how much it grew and that sort of thing. But I published 21 videos on the YouTube channel in 2020. 11 of those were podcast episodes. So that's really only 10 non-podcast videos on the channel. And when I break down like why each of them were made, it gets even sadder for me to see that I wasn't consistent. I wasn't putting out YouTube videos. I didn't prioritize those over SwitchPod or my clients or other projects I was working on. And you'll see why when we get into the financials. Like it's because they don't make as much money. That's the main reason. But of the remaining 10, 2 were to announce my course that came out, which I'll talk about in a bit, and the ball head. So announcing that the SwitchPod ball head came out. Those were 2 announcements. 3 were made because a company sent me something early. There were 2 of them that someone, sent me a piece of gear early, and, I wanted to make a video about it to help those companies because they're friends of mine, as well as, you get the views. You get the video out early, you get the views, you grow your audience. And then the third one in that category was a company sponsor me to make a video that had a deadline. So I made the video by that deadline and published it. 2 were just rants early in the year about Canon crippling their cameras, and another one about buying too much gear and equipment. And the other 3 were about new cameras in December that I purchased. So the Canon C70 and the Canon R5. I unboxed those. I talked about why I purchased them, why I sold my C200. And so looking at those videos, I didn't really make anything that I really wanted to make on YouTube. And it was another extremely sporadic, inconsistent year of publishing videos for me. And, I can't imagine what it's like to actually follow me online or on social media or YouTube specifically, because I go weeks or months without posting things. I will completely delete apps like Twitter and Instagram off my phone for a very long time and not post anything. So I get hurt by the algorithm. And then, but when I come back to post something, like, do people care about me? Does the algorithm want to share my stuff? Who knows? I don't really mention or tease when I'm working on. So when I put a video out, it's a complete surprise. Not even my wife knows like what video I'm working on, or anyone other than my editor maybe. So that's another reason why, like, you just see stuff out of the blue of a creator, like, well, I didn't even know he's working on that. Like, why, versus hyping it up, talking about that it's coming. I just don't do that. There's no cadence or consistent release date or time for my videos. I don't put them out on the same day. I don't put them out the same time of day. I don't put them out weekly or bi-weekly or monthly or whatever. And the topics are kind of all over the place. They're within that video production creativity kind of sphere. But despite all of this, my YouTube channel made more money last year than any previous year, while getting less views than any of the 4 years before that. You know, 2020's videos, the videos I uploaded in 2020 only accounted for less than 5% of the views that I got. So it was my backlog, that catalog of videos that I had produced, that were getting more views. And the videos from 2020 I made only accounted for 8.5% of the money that YouTube AdSense paid me. So it really pays to have a backlog of videos that will rank in search. And my most popular video was actually about how to look better on a webcam, because there were so many people at home during the pandemic on Zoom calls using webcams that wanted to look better. And that meant I got views from those. And that meant I made money from that one video I made way back in 2014. So you never really know what video is going to end up getting a lot of views over the long term. Sometimes you just need to make a lot of videos that are going to end up working for search rankings, and hope that they're going to make you some money sometimes. So I'm going to show you a graph here if you're watching this, and if you're listening, I'll kind of talk about it. So in this graph, you can see how many videos I published and the cumulative stats during each year to the right. So 2013, no videos published. I had 3 subscribers. 2014, I put out 8 videos. Next year, I put out 42, then 64, then 15, then 25, then 18, then 21. So for the past 4 years or so, I've put around about 20 new videos out each year. But looking at views, I only had 1.2 million views last year. And I've had a couple years where I've had about 2 million views. So, I'm not even getting as many views as I used to get. But this year from AdSense, I made about $5,400. And my biggest year before that was about $800 less than that. So, this is just, it's compounding. I'm getting more subscribers. I gained about 5,000 subscribers last year. But just having a backlog of videos, it helps you earn passive income, for lack of a better term. And when I initially started making videos for YouTube back in 2014, I was really only making videos because I would get a product and there wasn't really a product video for it that was good, or that taught me enough. So, I have to go to multiple places online, read the manual, watch some videos, try to figure out what to do. And I thought, I should just make a video about this thing that can help other people. Some of my most popular videos are those things. I have a video about a Focusrite Scarlett 2i2 USB audio interface thing, and it has hundreds of thousands of views and has made me money from the people that have watched it. As one of my first videos, I'm super boring. It's not lit well. It is what it is, but it still helps people. The information is still there, and people still watch it. But I don't feel like that's a problem anymore. By the time I get around to making a video about a specific product or a topic, there's multiple people that have already made videos about those things. There's an influencer culture now where when products are announced, there's videos that drop right when the NDA stops, whether they're cameras or audio equipment or what have you. People are on it. This is their full-time thing, to talk about products and recommend them and review them. So I don't feel that urgency, that need to make videos like that anymore. And that's how I initially started on YouTube. So that's where a lot of my subscribers interests lie. And, I know my perspective on cameras, specifically Canon cinema cameras and stuff like that, is watched by people and people are curious about what I have to say. But honestly, I think I'm just kind of over talking about gear for the most part. I still get excited about stuff, and when I get a new camera like the Canon C70, I'll want to make a video about it or talk about why I'm switching or things like that, and those can get views and those can get some reach. But I have enough gear. I have too much gear, honestly. I have enough technology, I have enough things around me to make videos for my clients, who are the people that actually pay me to help grow SwitchPod, take product photography, promotional stuff, and to make these types of videos. What I have is overkill for YouTube. So I also rarely care about when a new camera or lens or lighting or audio equipment or things like that come out anymore, because I feel like the increase in quality or features is so incremental for what I already own that I don't I don't research them as much. I don't watch as many videos about them, and I don't really envy people that have them anymore, which I feel like I used to. I used to want every piece of gear or equipment, or I used to want a red camera. And then I had one, and I was like, this is not as convenient as shooting on a Canon camera. So I don't know if that's just like a thing that everyone goes through over time. You want to get all the gear and equipment, and then you have too much and you get rid of it. I mean, just this week, I've seen Peter McKinnon put out videos about him getting rid of a bunch of lenses, getting rid of a bunch of cameras, because he has so many of them. But, when you have every tool available to you, you know, it does the opposite of limit you creatively. It like you just have so many options that you just like get analysis paralysis, and you end up not doing anything or not making anything. So, you know, I'm still planning to make YouTube videos. I want to start to make more videos that are just fun for me. I plan to create and publish videos about kind of whatever I want, since if I do that, at least I'll be excited enough to plan the video, film the video, edit the video, publish the video, and move on to the next one and try to get into a more consistent or a more regular cadence or quantity of videos output. And as a viewer of mine, or as a listener of my podcast, or someone that follows me online, hopefully you can just watch the ones you're interested in and skip the ones you're not. And over time, the YouTube algorithm, through recommendations or suggested videos, or just bringing in different types of people that are interested in different stuff into my channel, will help me just be more creatively fulfilled with the YouTube channel, versus feeling like I have to make videos because they're going to get views. That's not something I want to really do. And the 193-ish videos on my channel already are still going to be there, and they're still going to potentially rank and bring in money. Hopefully they'll bring in another $5,000 next year, just because they're sitting there. And so that's the value of making a bunch of videos, making a bunch of pieces of content that can bring in ad money, can bring in affiliate income. I heard someone explain it recently. It's like having a bunch of little tiny army men going to battle for you, like, and bringing in, one might bring in $1, but one of them might bring in like $300 because he'll work hard or something. And so each one of those YouTube videos is one of those little army men that are like working for me. And so, the more I make, the more I have fun with them, hopefully the further they'll go. And I think I need to separate kind of my feelings away from the performance of a video. I just put out a video a couple days ago that I just filmed for fun, because it was about this. It was about this keyboard here. If you're listening on the podcast, mechanical keyboard, the Keychron K2, because I'm interested in it. I had one. I got the new one. I wanted to make a video about it, and I just did it for fun, because I don't do that ever. I don't just do something quote unquote work related that's fun. And it's definitely discouraging to see that video getting less views, to see that video on the YouTube dashboard say, this is ranking 10 out of 10 for your last 10 videos on views and reach and watch time. And it's like, oh, I know it is. I see that already. You don't have to tell me again. YouTube. So, they're not getting clicked by my audience, because my subscribers probably don't care about a mechanical keyboard as much. They're not getting recommended to other audiences that are interested in mechanical keyboards because YouTube doesn't know that's what I make videos about. And, I'm not going to make more mechanical keyboard videos. I just wanted to make this very specific video for myself. But I'm interested in things other than video production. And now I want to spend my free time learning about other things or focused on other things. And I have these other kind of categories or topics that I hope to make YouTube videos about that I've kind of thought through of these 5 different areas of kind of like playlists, but also kind of just like topics or categories of what I want to make videos about. So let me just run through some of these and kind of what I would make videos about in these categories. So first up, uh, money and just like wealth building. Uh, Mainly beyond the basics of personal finance. I feel like when I started my blog Pocket Change back in 2010 and ran it in 2011, that was about like the basics of personal finance, about like how to get out of debt, how to start saving for retirement and things like that. But the things I'm more interested in now, being in my mid 30s, not being in my early 20s, I'm more focused in investing and what to do with additional money. Early retirement. How much do you have to save and how can you save it in a way to minimize taxes and retire before you're 60 or 70? Like things like that. Money and wealth topics that are broader, that are more advanced are kind of like the topics that I spend time learning about and might make videos about. Productivity and habits. I've always been someone that's read productivity books. I think I read Getting Things Done like 12 years ago or something like that. And I think that's enabled me to create multiple businesses to be able to get a lot done in the amount of time that I have to get things out of my head, get them into a system, and make sure that the important things get done and everything else can go on a list and can be there for later. But how to stay focused on what will give me the most amount of results in the least amount of time, especially now that I'm a parent. I have less time to work and I do work less than I did before. And also talk about some of the tools that I use to do that. I've been using Notion a lot lately. I use the Things app for my to do list stuff, but I just have a bunch of systems and stuff I think I could share with people. Another topic I'd love to talk more about, and I spend my time reading about and listening to people talk about, is kind of this intersection between stoicism and mindfulness and essentialism and not so much minimalism because I don't have like 47 things or anything like that, but just like what you have is essential to you and you're happy and content with now and the things that you have instead of always trying to strive for whatever more you could have. We're trying to choose a simpler life, choose a simpler business, honestly, than the stress and complexity of having a large team or scaling to a level that adds in all this stress. I'm very happy with the level of financial success that I have at the scale that I have of not having a huge team, not having a lot of obligations, and having more freedom and flexibility. So those types of things potentially would be things I talk about, and those are the things I have conversations about with my wife and with my friends and stuff. Another category would just be running a business as a solo entrepreneur. I think there's a lot of content out there on the internet about like startup culture and starting a business and scaling a business and things like that. But there's not, I don't feel like a lot of stuff out there about running a profitable, small, quote unquote, small business that has a lot of revenue, has good profit without having to scale up staff or expenses or stress and the stuff I was just talking about. So, you know, opening the kimono a little bit about what it's like to run my businesses, and later in this video, getting more into the numbers about how much these types of businesses can make with the amount of effort and energy I've put into them over the years. And then the last category is kind of similar to what I have been making videos about, but just more focused and more fun. So creator tools and technology, basically what I've been, like I said, making similar videos about, but kind of equipment and software that helps with content creation and specifically, video podcasting and live streaming, because like those are the types of things that I do. So if you see me start to make videos about all these random things unrelated to video production, it's because the few $1,000s that I make from YouTube each year, or the additional few thousands of dollars I make from affiliate income, or the money I make from my online courses, they're a smaller percentage, a smaller portion of the overall amount that my businesses make. And so I'm going to start treating them more like the hobby that they could be. I'm going to try to treat them more like they're a playground. Treat the YouTube channel, treat the videos I make, treat the podcast more like fun and less like work. And this might also be partially because I'm rereading Austin Kleon's 3 books: Steal Like an Artist, Show Your Work, and Keep Going. But he talks about exploring a little bit more and having more fun with the business, and do stuff creatively that doesn't always make financial sense, and using my additional work time beyond the work that I have to do for my clients and for SwitchPod to have some more fun. Next, I want to talk about my online courses. So I think I have about 5 of them now. There's a few more if you count free ones, but I did launch one new one last year called Camera Basics for Filming Videos. And a second one we filmed and edited that got launched at the beginning of 2021 in January, called Audio Basics for Filming Videos. So I thought it would make sense to break down very specific, skills you need to learn to make different videos. So you need to understand your camera, you need to understand audio, you need to understand lighting. Lighting is another course that I plan to make this year, and sell them individually, if that's just a problem area that someone feels like they're having, as opposed to bundling all of that advice into one course. So those haven't sold as well as some of my, like, I'm going to teach you everything courses, because I feel like those are just more enticing for people to be like, oh, I just want it all. Just tell me everything all at once. But they did bring in money, definitely. And I hope to release more than this. Last year, like I said, I was trying to do one per month, and that didn't happen. So I'll be working to launch more courses early in 2021. I'm going to update my Premiere Pro course, and so we're working on that right now. And just because I haven't updated, I think, since 2015 or 2016. And there's new things in Premiere now. There's new color correction tools. There's new audio tools. There's new graphical tools, and they always are updating stuff. So I'll update that course, bring it up to date for people that have already bought it, as well as new people. And a lighting basics course. Those are kind of first 2 things I want to do. And the third course, if we can get to it this year, will be a course on filming courses, which is very meta, but I do think it would be helpful, because I have helped film probably 15 to 25 courses. I don't know. I need to count it for real, but a lot of courses with a lot of different people. So I have a lot of experience putting together those, filming them, editing, that sort of thing. And the courses are an important part of my digital business. Since 2015, the courses have made 55% of my digital revenue. Advertising has made 15% of the revenue, and affiliate income brings in the remaining 30%. So, more than half of the money I make from my non-client, non-physical product businesses comes from courses. So they are an essential part. And I pulled the data for this review, and I've sold over $100,000 worth of online courses since 2015. And even saying that out loud is pretty crazy, considering I don't feel like any of the launches have been big. I don't even think I've had a 5-figure launch for one of my courses. When you hear a lot of other people talking about online courses, they're talking about big launches, big joint venture things, and hitting 6 figures and stuff like that. And I've never done that. My most successful thing has been SwitchPod and that Kickstarter launch. But I'm grateful for all the students that have chosen to buy courses from me, to learn from me, when there's so many other places you can learn online. And I'm pretty much self-taught in all of these different things, in all of these different skills that I'm teaching. I pulled from experience and the internet and all different places, and tried to package it into courses that are helpful for people. So DIY Video School, if you're interested in learning any of that stuff from me. But at the same time, I don't really feel like I've cracked the code for selling online courses, like a lot of my clients that I've filmed have, or friends or peers that make video courses online. I don't feel like I have these large launches or sophisticated funnels or an evergreen marketing system, or I don't do webinars or any of that stuff. And a few of the reasons why I feel like my courses don't sell as much as they possibly could is A, my audience size. My email list doesn't grow that much each year. We'll get to that later. Uh, I don't consistently release content for an audience to have them keep returning and to subscribe. My courses aren't necessarily unique. You know, you can learn what I'm teaching from other people. So it's really a sell of you should learn from me because of X, Y, and Z. And I could probably do a better job of positioning that or building that trust so people buy from me. Like I said, I don't have evergreen systems like webinars or ads or anything like that to try to sell my courses, which I know a lot of people have success with. And I don't really push them. I don't try to sell them beyond the initial launch. I don't do major discounts. I mean, I did one Black Friday discount a couple years ago to push some course sales, but I don't really discount my courses. The price is the price. It might launch with a discount to encourage people right when it's launching and to reward them for being an early customer. But beyond that, not a huge fan of discounts for my courses, for my services, or for SwitchPod at all. So I've just considered online courses and even my digital business in general to be bonus, like to be stuff that I work on when I have extra time. So I would do it in between big client projects when stuff was slow. We'd put out YouTube videos, we'd work on a new course, that sort of thing. And then I view that income as bonus as well. So I'd view any additional money I make from the digital part of my business as bonus money. And oftentimes I would look at that and be like, okay, that's what I can reinvest in gear and equipment, or I can get a new laptop, or I can invest in a lens or a camera or something like that. Um, but I do feel like my courses, especially, could bring in a lot more money and help a lot more people in turn. So this is a code I'm still going to try to work to crack, but you know, results follow action too. So continually making new courses, continually updating existing courses, and continuing to sell them. It's bound to bring in more money. It's bound to help more people, and we'll keep at it. I told you this was going to be a long one, right? Okay, so we're getting closer to the number part of the annual review, and I might actually shorten up some of the what went well, what didn't go well, because a lot of that gets into like my personal life as well, of like my health and travel and family and stuff like that. So I'll try to get through this a little bit quicker and end this episode a little bit faster. But getting into the metrics, getting into the numbers, I think it's important each year to track certain metrics. And I can't tell you what those are going to be for your business. They're going to be different for everybody. But for me, here are the metrics and things that I've been tracking kind of year over year, or that I think are important to track if you have a similar kind of business to me. And so the first ones we'll talk about our SwitchPod and talk about units sold. That's a very important number because we need to always have enough inventory. We need to see how much we're selling each year. And these do sell at different prices because you could buy directly from us, which is going to bring us the most money because there's no middle person that's taking a cut of it. You could buy from Amazon. So, Amazon's going to take a percentage of every sale for, having it on their website, for shipping it out. They're going to take their cut. Or through a retailer like Moment or B&H or Adorama or Focus Camera or whoever else. We sell it to them at a set price, and then they mark it up to the full price that's the same as it is on Amazon or the same as it is on our website. So you can kind of do some math to figure out some numbers for our products or revenue and stuff like that, but also share the top level gross revenue for SwitchPod later if you're interested in that. So for units sold in 2020, it was a little over 5,500 SwitchPod tripods, just over 4,000 ball heads, and almost 700 phone adapters. And that, like I said, is a mix between our website, Amazon, and our retailers. So I won't share that because I do think it's important to keep some of your numbers hidden, and I don't want everyone to know everything. So we also have 16 retailers, which I think is a cool thing for me to think about. Of 16 places online or in person have taken a risk on my product, and a lot of these don't have in-person stores. They're online only retailers, but like I could walk into a store in Israel or some other countries, and there would be a Switch pod sitting there, and that's really cool to me. So I want to continually partner with more retailers as things open up after the pandemic, and people are shopping in stores again, and we can get into more international retailers and make it more easily accessible for people without having to pay import fees and stuff like that that happens when you ship stuff overseas. Is a big goal of mine. Going into more of the digital business stuff, 21 YouTube videos published, just over 1.2 million views on the channel, and subscribers were at about 49,100 at the start of 2021. So that was a gain of 5,300 subscribers in 2020. So just honestly, it's been a slow and steady growth from zero to almost 50,000 here. You can see on the video version, I got a sub counter up there in the corner. So we're about 400 away from 50,000, which is just like a big number milestone that doesn't really mean anything, but it's fun to celebrate. The podcast, I did 25 new episodes published in 2020, and there was about 26,000 downloads of the podcast. So, like I said, that's roughly 1,000 per episode, which in the podcasting, big picture is not that many. Like I have friends that millions of downloads on their podcasts and stuff like that. So, is it worth it? I don't know. If you're listening to this, I don't know, tweet me, email me, say like, hey, there are real people on the other end of you talking into this microphone, because it does feel small to me when I know what other podcasts get. And then for my website, I don't really track this stuff or care about it very much. But my page views were about 170,000 last year, and users was about 112,000. Those are both down about 10 or 15% from the year before. So like I do put stuff up on my website when I put out a podcast or when I do a gear review or something like that, but I don't really focus on that. I don't really pay much attention to it, but I do know that it does get views. It does get clicks into affiliate income. So it's like, if I'm going to go through the trouble of making a video, getting all the affiliate links ready to put them under the YouTube video anyway, like I'm going to take the extra amount of time or have someone on my team help get it up on the website. Maybe that'll rank. Maybe that'll bring me an affiliate sale and I'll make 47 cents or whatever. It's just like another place to potentially make some money more passively. And then for my email list, like I said, I'm sporadic with videos and podcasts that I post. I'm also sporadic for the emails that I write to my email list. And so sometimes people are like, wait, who's this person? Or like they'll sign up for one of my free courses, and then 3 weeks later I'll send them a video about a light that I'm reviewing, and I'm like, who's this guy? My email list only went up 100 people last year, and it's at about 7,600 email subscribers. So the lack of consistency and all the other things I mentioned before, because there's a lot of churn, the net increase was about 100, which, you get a lot of unsubscribes when you email people not very frequently. My digital efforts don't get the results they could, basically. But when we talk finances here in a minute, that part of my business still brings in a decent amount of income. So I'm not just going to ignore it. I'm going to continue to focus on it, see how I can grow it, while still having some fun with it. Money and numbers. So let me talk about why I'm going to share my revenue numbers, but not my expenses. So I'm sharing my financial numbers for the following reasons. First, they're for me. If I don't compile the financial numbers, like, yeah, my accountant does my QuickBooks and I have my profit and loss reports and I have, my taxes done and that sort of thing. And I can look at those year to year. But if I don't sit down and do it like a thorough overview of how much money I'm making from different places and why, then, I might be discouraged by some of the other numbers that don't matter, like the adding 100 people to my email list. That might discourage me. But if it's like, okay, but this is the money that you made and the actual money that helped you pay rent or eat your food or go on a trip or what have you, like those kind of metrics, money metrics are more valuable to keep to you, I think, than some of the more vanity type things online, like how many followers you have or subscribers or likes or any of those more ephemeral things. So number one, these numbers are for me to compile, look at, compare to the years before. Number two, for to inspire somebody like me about 6 or so years ago that just risked leaving a paycheck, basically, working at a startup, working with other cool people, cool entrepreneurs to start your own business. Because that was what I did in late 2014. And it was a risk and I didn't know how it would go. But seeing how other people were making money online or through their businesses and sharing their revenue numbers, I knew it was possible. And so I knew by seeing what other people were making, I knew that maybe I could make that too. So that's the second reason why I'm sharing numbers like this. The third reason is to inspire someone even further back. So, me 10 or 11 years ago, when I'm working that job at Boeing, still sitting at my desk, I didn't know what kind of business was possible to build. I didn't know like the options. I didn't know how to make money online. I didn't know how to start a physical product business. I didn't know how to get a bunch of clients and things like that. So sharing numbers for someone like that to be like, oh, like that guy can do it and he can work on something for 10 years and eventually get closer to the lifestyle that he wants or the income level or where he wants to live in the world or the kind of work life balance that someone like me has. And so I want to inspire someone at that point, that's maybe working a job that they hate like I did. And then number four, for someone that, already is, more entrepreneurial, making money on the side, things like that, to kind of show you how diversifying your revenue streams or running multiple businesses or styles of businesses can help you break through kind of like an earnings ceiling. So if you have a day job that like you can only get a 2% raise each year, maybe starting something on the side, whether that's a YouTube channel or a physical product or a client business or something like that, can help you break through that ceiling beyond what they'll let you in a corporate environment. And it can also help you survive a major economic downturn or a recession or a pandemic or something like that. If you have a side hustle or you have something that you could turn into a full time thing if you lose your job. So, those are the reasons why I'm sharing the revenue numbers. I'm not going to share expenses. I have shared them in the past in 2015 and 2018. If you go into those annual reviews, you can see like exactly how much profit I personally made. Uh, but I'm not going to be doing that for a few reasons. Without completely diving into all of the details of exactly what I pay myself, exactly what I pay contractors or vendors and stuff like that, how much in taxes or what kind of things I do to write stuff off and the percentage of my square footage in my home office that like without getting into all of that, that's too detailed for me right now, especially in this format in a video or in a podcast. I'm not going to be sharing all of that stuff. And I'd be happy to talk generally sometime about how much my business spends on accounting or certain applications or, like what recurring services do I pay for each month to run my video production business or all those other quote unquote spend money to make money line items in a profit and loss. But to simplify things this year, I'm just going to leave out expenses and we're just going to talk about money coming in, not money being spent. And another important caveat, there's a lot of caveats before I talk about actual money. Just know the numbers listed for these different parts of my businesses are before all expenses, all taxes, any gear purchases or rentals that I make, paying my full-time contractor editor that I have on staff, tax write-offs, and so much other stuff. The numbers do not equal what I actually like took home last year. This is top line revenue numbers for my client side business, my digital side business, and then those then funnel into all of my expenses. Then SwitchPod, there is a top line revenue number that I'll share. There's all the expenses, and then as an owner and someone that runs the day to day of the company, there'll be another number that I'm going to share. So know that it's just a bunch of numbers. It doesn't mean a lot. If anything, hopefully it'll just inspire you to see what is possible to make from different types of businesses. And another quick thing to note, like I said, that SwitchPod revenue is what was paid to me as the owner and manager of the business, not the top line of the entire company before all our manufacturing costs and paying Pat as well. That's not included. I'm not going to share what Pat's making from SwitchPod. I'll break down SwitchPod in detail in a little bit. So let's get to it. 2020 revenue. So client revenue in 2020 was $173,934.30. So rounded about 174,000. This is actually a big dip compared to client income the previous years because, like I said, inquiries slowed down during COVID-19. I was still taking time off at the beginning of the year, or not taking time off, but like not actively seeking out clients because our daughter was colicky and I wanted to stay home for a few more months with her. And I couldn't travel like normal through the rest of the year like I normally do. So I'm really happy with this number because it allows me to still have a full-time editor on staff to help with those client projects, to help Pat and SPI and the other people we worked with last year. And it pays for the overhead costs and the base salary for me each year. And then the digital revenue was about $31,000 last year, $31,446.49. That breaks into those three categories I talked about: advertising, affiliate, and core sales. So I'll just round these. $8,700 in advertising income, $12,100 in affiliate income, and $10,500 in core sales. So those add up to that 31,446 number. It actually stayed pretty flat compared to 2019, and I think it has a lot of potential for growth considering how little attention it gets compared to the other two businesses, and knowing what I know other people make online from their courses, from advertising, from affiliate income. But I just need to find the right balance of how much I can work on it and how to maximize how much that business can make. And so more to come on that. For SwitchPod, I'm actually going to switch the SwitchPod section for how I wrote it. The top gross revenue number for SwitchPod in 2020 was almost $700,000. But my portion of that, after expenses, manufacturing costs, warehousing, shipping, taxes, all those different types of things, my amount that I got paid from SwitchPod was $147,725, which is crazy to me considering the year before it had just launched on Kickstarter, and I think maybe $10,000 or $20,000 was what I took from SwitchPod in 2019. So I didn't know what to expect going into 2020, how SwitchPod was going to sell, how new products were going to go, and considering that it was a year of a global pandemic and people that might stock our product couldn't or wouldn't, and people weren't traveling like they might a lot normally, and that's what SwitchPod might be great for. I'm very happy with that. So, I was able to take about 21.5% of that top line revenue as my income for running SwitchPod day to day. So, I take a monthly guaranteed payment from the company to run the day to day like I do, and then B, owner draws quarterly that are calculated with Pat and I, looking at how much cash we have in the bank, how much do we want to take out, how much do we want to reinvest in the business, and and split it at our ownership percentages. So, I'm happy with that number very much. So that number doesn't include cash we leave in the business or owner draws that Pat took, and we're taking substantial owner draws in the company right now because personally I'm treating it as a lean company, a lean machine. We're not trying to add on too much in expenses or team right now. And we're not trying to just reinvest every dollar back into the business. I want to be able to take some money from it and get some money from the work we've put into it. So we're not spending money on advertising. We're not scaling up in staff. We're not trying to just grow this thing into $1 billion business that we can sell off later. If someone wants to buy it down the road, great. But right now we're building this as a lean company. We self-funded it at the beginning. We then crowd-funded it to get the money to manufacture it, and we're not taking on more funding currently. And right now it's profitable and making good money from it. So total gross revenue, not the top line that includes all of SwitchPod, but like what SwitchPod paid me personally, what clients paid my business, what the digital income brought in, was $353,105.79. That's the biggest it's ever been. So that's exciting, considering it was a pandemic and a downturn, and I had to turn off a main part of my client side business. So that's super exciting. But again, this is not the number that made it into our personal checking account in 2020. There are so many expenses for running these three businesses: the taxes, contractors. It doesn't count subscriptions. It doesn't count office space. It doesn't count equipment. It doesn't count my Adobe fees. It doesn't count when I buy an SD card. All of that stuff eats into the top line revenue number. So just know I didn't, get that much in my personal bank account. Um, IRS gets their share for sure. Um, and how I have it set up is I have, SwitchPod as a business and my current, Caleb Logic Films business. And the payment I get from SwitchPod goes into Caleb Logic Films. And then, all my expenses and stuff come and funnel through that. So I'm a co-owner of SwitchPod. So I can't consider, you know, all of the SwitchPod income along with all of my client and all my digital stuff to be, like more like almost $900,000 of gross revenue for the three businesses. That's not really all mine. And it would just inflate stuff in a way that I don't think is realistic because I'm a co-owner, because I split that business with Pat. Now I might share my expenses in the future for certain things, but just like I said, to be respectful of not disclosing how much I pay others or what my co-owner with SwitchPod earns. I'm leaving it out of this review, and that's less caveat for the money. So I have three more sections here. I'm gonna truncate these a little bit in the video and audio version of this review, and you can read them more in detail if you want to on my website. Just go to calebw.com and look up annual review for 2020. It'll be there. I have written more detail on this. Mainly, like I said, this is for me. Like, this annual review is most important to me. It's reviewing my life and my businesses and what I've done or what my team has done or what my business partners and I have done. So, I'm not gonna read this part in full, but I'll give you the highlights of what I feel like went well, what didn't go well, and then some teasing of what I'm doing in 2021. So the first thing I feel like went really well was growing SwitchPod into a very profitable and lean first full year of shipping the product. So 2019, we got the product, launched on Kickstarter. By the end of the year, we started shipping it out. But 2020 was the first full year of having inventory, shipping it to customers, and that's what made it the more profitable year. And so I'm proud of how we were able to turn the successful launch on Kickstarter into a profitable product business and something that's been sustainable so far. Number two, paid off all outstanding debt. So going into 2020, we did have some personal debt outstanding from whether it's past medical bills, student loans, living above our means, whatever type of excuses I could make. We had debt going into 2020, but mainly due to the financial success of SwitchPod, we were able to completely be debt free again for the first time since 2010. So, before Jen and I got married was the last time that we didn't have debt. We just, you get used to it. You kind of carry it all the time, and it just becomes normal. You have a mental weight that's lifted when you are out of debt again, and making those last payments on your debt. That feeling is kind of indescribable. I know on Dave Ramsey, he like has people scream on his radio show when they, pay off debt. But I felt like once that happened midway through the year, I started being just a better boss to myself. I felt less guilty during non-work hours. I felt like I could actually like take some time off for myself. I felt like I could, like, not that I really do like blow off the afternoon or play hooky or something like that. I still am really bad at that. I keep pretty regular banker hours, 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, and that's about it. But it was that guilt of like feeling like, oh, there's like those things on my to-do list I could do, or like, oh, there's always more you can do as an entrepreneur, and not having that feeling as much once we got out of debt was really nice. And it's really odd to me that the it happened during 2020, which was a crazy year for everyone. during a pandemic, during an economic downturn when a lot of people lost their jobs and were hurting. And that was the year that we got out of debt. And it was really just a timing of SwitchPod and having the other businesses continue to bring money in. And I'm thankful that I had worked so hard and my wife had worked so hard and Tim on my team and other people I work with have worked so hard over the past 5 to 10 years to put ourselves in a position to thrive in 2020 and hopefully beyond as well. So I'm thankful that we could persevere through the pandemic financially, not needing a PPP loan, not, having to put ourselves in, more of a health danger to fly for projects or do things we weren't comfortable doing. Um, and, trying to save money and live at the current level that we're living at because lifestyle creep was definitely a big part of why I feel like we started to go into debt and stayed in debt for a while was, you know, moving closer to the beach and paying more in rent and traveling to different places and getting better camera gear and equipment and all that kind of stuff. You just, you like want and want and want. You keep getting stuff. But I feel like we're trying as best as possible to kind of limit our ceiling on what we spend all the time. So that, any additional money we make, we can save for our future, for a house, for retirement, for our children, that sort of thing. So yeah, that was a longer one, the paying off debt one, but that's a hot button for me. Debt and money and finances that I feel like people don't talk about enough. We still drive cars that are, I think, 16 years old. Yeah, I drive a 2004, and my wife drives a 2002. So you know, we aren't lavish about everything. Number three, I didn't travel for work for the first time for a full year. And in that year, being a dad and timing it with that as well to be here to see Odette grow up and all the time I got to spend seeing her was great. Number four, I started quote unquote playing again. So I used to play a lot of video games. Like in high school and college, I probably played somewhere between 50 and 30 hours a week of video games, maybe more, honestly, in college. Uh, it was how I just like hung out with my friends and how we stayed in touch with people over the internet, playing Xbox Live and stuff. And it was just a hobby I've always enjoyed in the evenings. But once I started my business in 2014, and this I think goes into the debt stuff I was just talking about, I kind of stopped playing video games. I didn't get a round of systems like I always got each round. I'd get the N64 and then I would get a Dreamcast and then I would get a PlayStation 2 or 3 or, Xbox 360 and like I would have every generation of video game console. I like skipped a whole generation where I didn't have uh, an Xbox One, a PlayStation 4, or a Nintendo Switch. Like I for last 5 or 6 years, and during lockdown, and partially to the guilt of not having debt anymore, we bought a Nintendo Switch, and that kind of got me back into gaming again. And it was something I could do while Odette was napping on me for 2 hours to give Jen a break. To give Jen a break from her being colicky and such a hard newborn. But bringing gaming back into my life was also a way for me to stay in touch with friends during the pandemic, which was really great. So I would hop on Discord, play a game with someone online. We started playing Tabletop Simulator and playing board games with my friends from high school. And just like, it was fun to just play again after I feel like just only working and then like watching TV was like, those like the two things that I did for so many years. But that's just something I missed, and it's fun to play games again. And like I said, over Christmas break, I played God of War and Uncharted 4 on PlayStation instead of working, and it was nice. Instead of writing my annual review, that's what I did. Number five thing that went well, I walked over 700 miles last year, which is a crazy amount. I haven't really mapped how far that that is. I'm going to do it while we're talking here, but that's a lot of miles. You hear that mechanical keyboard? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Okay, so once Odette was kind of through the colicky newborn phase, she would let me like go on a walk with her in a stroller, and that was about when the pandemic started. And so, pretty much all we could do that was safe was put my mask on, go for a walk around our neighborhood, take the dog, and do that. And so I've done that every single day for the last 330 days. Uh, I've walked about 2 miles. And so, add in some extra walks or some longer ones in there. And yeah, that's 700 miles. So let's see how far 700 miles. So if I go from where I live, let's do directions here. How far do you think we can go? Can I go to like San Francisco? I mean, that's only like 484 miles. I guess let's go a little further. What's further than San Francisco? Reno, someplace in Utah. Let's see if I can get to Salt Lake. Salt Lake City. 734 miles. So like I live a couple minutes walking from the ocean in San Diego. And so basically from there almost all the way to Salt Lake City. I think I can get to Provo. Let's see if I can get to Provo. 695. So I could walk from where I live in San Diego all the way to Provo, and it would have taken me the whole year. but that puts it to scale of like how far I walked. I don't know. It's just a fun thing. I track it every day. I close my Apple Watch rings, and it's just something fun I've been doing. So it's just a stupid little habit that I have that's also good for me. Number 6, this will be a quick one. I went to Cabo right before the pandemic, like second half of February in 2020, right before everything started getting locked down. I went to Cabo, took a trip with my family. My mom went, helped celebrate her retirement. That was a fun trip, and I'm glad we took it because we haven't traveled since. Number 7, last thing went well here. I read 19 books last year. I did put a focus on trying to read books, try to consume like more high quality content, for lack of a better term. Like, I still watch YouTube videos. I'll still listen to podcasts. I don't really watch TikTok or anything like that. But I feel like getting in deep into a book or an audiobook and learning things is something really valuable. I would either buy them on Audible or, I try to borrow them from Libby, that app that kind of syncs up with your library. It's a great way to get books as well. So some of my favorite books I read last year, I think I listened to all of these. I don't think I read the physical copy of any of these. Green Lights, the Matthew McConaughey book, Skin in the Game, Shoe Dog was really interesting about the guy that founded Nike. Talking to Strangers by Malcolm Gladwell is a very interesting book as well. The End is Always Near. Sapiens, which is like the history of humans, if there's not a better way to think of it than that. And Stillness is the Key by Ryan Holiday. I always enjoy his books. A few things that didn't go well, and then talk about 2021, and then we'll wrap up. So we're almost done. I didn't release any content consistently. Like I say, in every annual review, I feel like I haven't been able to keep a consistent publishing cadence. And when I first started blogging in 2010, I put up a blog post every day for the first 50 days. And that gave me the momentum with some traffic and just as a creator and as someone like trying to build a writing habit that really helped. And success to me with consistency would just be like picking a regular cadence that I could communicate to people and stick to. So ideally that would be weekly, but one video a week at the same day and time. I don't know why that's so hard for me, but it is. It's just something I struggle with, and I'm trying to focus on it. And I'll try to do better in 2021. Number 2, I struggle to get SwitchPod into physical stores like I hoped and add on as many international retailers. Talked about this a lot earlier. Thankfully, people buy through our Shopify website. People buy through Amazon. They buy through our existing online retailers. But I would like to get into physical stores. I like to be able to walk into a store in the United States and see a SwitchPod, buy a SwitchPod. And I would like to be in more international retailers so people can more easily purchase SwitchPod without having to wait for shipping or pay import fees. And third thing that didn't really go that great was lifting weights. Like I said, I spent a lot of my exercise time walking. But you could blame gyms closing due to COVID. But I was in like a good cadence at the beginning of 2020 in January and February of lifting weights, going to the Y with my wife. And once that shut down, I couldn't do the lifts, the barbell lifts that I like to do when I lift weights. Didn't have the equipment to do bench press, deadlift, barbell curl, back squat, stuff like that. We did eventually get a pair of adjustable dumbbells, which I feel like everyone was trying to buy, so they're out of stock for a while. But once we got those, we kind of built a small home gym with a bench and stuff like that. And once got it set up, I lifted 14 times in July and 10 times in August. And then I just kind of fell off the routine after that. After doing my walks and doing a hard day of work, I wouldn't really go pick up weights. So that's something I need to get back in the habit of. I do want to build a home gym, but I don't know if I will. Things might open back up and I can just go to a regular gym again. So what is next for me and my businesses in 2021? Um, in the past, I've written out like a very detailed like plan for the year, and it always goes awry. So take that for what you will. But I have spent a lot of time planning my goals for this year and tracking them internally in Notion. I have my goals for SwitchPod, goals for my clients, goals for my digital business, personal goals involving health, personal goals involving finance. I think it's helpful to have, you know, some numbers that you can strive towards, some goals and things planned out for the year. I'm actually using the timeline view in Notion, which is nice, where you can set start and end dates and then look at your whole year and be like, okay, I know I want to do that project this year, but I'm not going to do it until May. So don't worry about it right now. Just it's there. I know it's coming. We'll talk about that later. It's helpful for me to be like, okay, of my 22 goals, I'm really only working on like 4 right now. The other ones can wait. Or they're goals that are like all year long. So it's like go for a 2-mile walk every day. That's an everyday goal. So it's just going across the whole year. I don't have to like think about like, oh, what's my health goal or what have you. So these are my 5 kind of main overarching goals, and they just kind of line up with my business and my personal life. So continue growing SwitchPod would be the first one. Sell more units, get more retailers on board, develop more products. Number 2, develop on projects for Smart Passive Income, our main client on retainer. They have courses they're planning, YouTube content continually, et cetera. A lot of other video needs. Number 3, I'm doing 3 like this with 2 fingers and a thumb because we're teaching sign language to my daughter, and this is not 3 according to sign language. This is 3. So 3, have fun with my digital business. Make videos about topics I want to make videos about. Do hour-long videos about my previous year. Just like do what I want to do and not care about the results and see how it went at the end of the year. And launch some more courses. Launch the Premiere course again. Launch my lighting course. Maybe the online course creation course. That sort of stuff. 4, continue to keep a healthy work-life balance. I feel like it's been easier since we're stuck at home to have a work-life balance. For some people, it might not be that way. I think having a daughter as well, of having the guilt of, okay, it's 5. I know I should go upstairs and help my wife. Like right now, it's 5:09 p.m. as I'm recording this. This is going way longer than I planned because I'm going off the cuff. If I would have just read the 5,000 words, this probably would have been a much tighter episode. So maybe I should have thrown this up on the teleprompter, but no, this is more conversational. So hopefully you prefer this versus me reading something aloud. But yeah, having those daily walks, gaming with friends, getting back into weightlifting, only working 9 to 5, not working weekends, like having those boundaries for me is really important. And I need those breaks. I can't work 10, 12, 14-hour days, 7 days a week, anything like that. I've worked at high levels like that in the past. I just don't have the capacity for it anymore with other obligations or the ability to take care of myself at the same time. So it's not worth it. And 5, just save additional money. So as the businesses are doing well, avoid that lifestyle creep. Stay out of debt. Don't make any unnecessary purchases. I do think we're going to have to replace both of our cars because, like I said, they're really old. But other than that, invest for retirement, save a lot for potentially retiring early. Maybe I don't want to work right now. I'm 34. Maybe I don't want to work another 20 years. Maybe I can retire in my 40s or early 50s. Who knows? If I save enough money and plan it right and put it in the right places, I can do that. And save for a house. I just, housing, we've been renting I've been renting for 13 years now since college. And I'd like to own a house someday. Living in Southern California, it's tough to A, find a house, B, save up a down payment because houses are like $1 million or more, and C, just, like put an offer in before someone else does. The market's crazy right now, but, saving money for a house to own a house someday. So those are my main goals for 2021. And I want to end here with just talking a little bit about the annual review process and just how helpful it is. I feel like to look back at stuff because what you do if you don't review your year, you don't compare yourself to your past self, is you compare yourself to other people. And when you compare yourself to other people, it's very easy to be unhappy because you don't see people online that are super unsuccessful or super unhappy. Those aren't the people you choose to follow. Those aren't the people that get all the followers. The people you're following online or you're looking up to, they're the successful people. They're the people that have some stuff figured out and are doing okay financially. And it's really easy to compare yourself to them. And you don't also compare yourself to just one of them. You end up comparing yourself to all of them. And so when you pull up your YouTube app or your podcast feed and you see all the new things that people put out or everyone sharing what they're launching, like you're comparing yourself to everyone else at the same time, as opposed to like you and just one other person or you and your past self. So I think it's really helpful to do annual reviews, compare your numbers, compare how you're feeling to the previous version of yourself, and use that as your barometer. Use that as your compass of where you want to head or how you're doing, as opposed to comparing yourself to other people. So please don't compare yourself to me. Please use some of this as an inspiration, or please use whatever I've talked about as like a, hey, this guy has insecurities or this guy struggles with the same things I'm struggling with. Hopefully there's a bit of that in this as well. And I think that's it. That is the marathon of the 2020 annual review from me, Caleb Wojcik. And it was a marathon of a year, 2020. So that's why it took me like 2 months to put together my review and kind of just recover from such a crazy year. So I appreciate you. If you made it this far, you're in that top 1% of fans or people that care about me talking for this long. So I appreciate you. Send me a note, send me an email, send me a tweet, DM me on Instagram or something like that. I appreciate you. Leave a comment below if this is on YouTube, and I will talk to you in a future video or podcast. Cheers.